John Griffin said something in the press rounds after this finale that got buried under all the headlines about the two deaths and the talisman theft. He said the entire season was built around one idea: knowledge comes at a cost. Most show creators would leave that as a marketing line. This one spent 10 episodes proving it, and it proved it almost entirely through what happened to people's bodies and minds, not through exposition. Every major answer season 4 handed out this year, it handed out by making someone pay for it first. That's the actual shape of the season once you stop counting revelations and start counting what each one took out of the person carrying it. Start with Fatima because her season makes the pattern easiest to see. The show had been building toward her transformation since the moment she gave birth to Smiley, tying her to the creature in ways she could feel before anyone could explain them. She sensed him coming before he arrived. Her body kept changing in small ways nobody wanted to name out loud. None of that got treated as a twist waiting to be revealed. It got treated as a slow physical fact, playing out in the background while the plot moved somewhere else. Season 3 told the audience that the original settlers traded their children for immortality and became these creatures, and left it there as a description of a bargain. Fatima is that bargain shown in a body instead of summarized in a scene. In episode 6, Sophia gets her to drink something laced with the entity's own blood, on the man in yellow's instruction, and the process that had been crawling forward for a season speeds up right in front of us. Her hands elongate into claws. Her face changes shape. By the time she's fighting through the tunnels to buy Tabitha, Jade, Boyd, and Ellis room to escape, she isn't wondering what she's turning into anymore. She's already inside it, using whatever strength that gives her to protect the people who were never able to protect her. The last thing she does before it takes her completely is ask Ellis to remember who she used to be, which is the only piece of evidence the show gives all season that whatever comes out the other side of this might still have someone left inside it. None of this was something Fatima agreed to. She was made pregnant by something she never consented to back in season 3, and she was finished off in season 4 by a drink handed to her by a friend, acting on instructions from somewhere else entirely. Everything the audience now understands about what these creatures physically are came from watching that process happen to a specific person who never had a say in it. Pegah Ghafoori, who plays her, has described the moment as a kind of awakening, the point where Fatima stops trying to control a situation that was never controllable to begin with. She spent this entire show trying to make the town less frightening for the people around her, and the answer the show finally gives about what she is arrives as the exact opposite of control. It's something being done to her. Henry runs the same argument through a different substance and a much slower fuse. Sophia spikes his drink with her own blood in episode 6, the same episode that starts Fatima's transformation, and by the following episode, he's seeing himself strapped into a hospital bed with a version of his son standing over him, insisting that none of Fromville ever happened. That the town is a delusion he built to stay close to Victor after some kind of breakdown years earlier, and that Victor is only trying to bring him back to the life he actually has. The show doesn't undercut this hallucination with a quick reveal. It lets it run for 3 full episodes, getting longer and more convincing each time, until Henry is standing there with a gun, genuinely trying to work out whether killing his own son inside the vision is what finally wakes him up on the other side of it. Robert Joy, who plays Henry, said around this point in the season that the blood had already changed his character's brain, to where processing what was actually happening to him had become almost impossible. That claim is worth sitting with because it means the show isn't describing a con Henry could eventually see through on his own. It's describing damage, permanent, physical, delivered through a drink, in exchange for an answer the audience needed about exactly how far this entity's reach extends into a person. There's a reason the show built this particular trap for Henry instead of someone else. The visions push him toward destroying what the hallucination calls his anchor, meaning Victor, using his own guilt over the years he spent absent from his son's life as the leverage. Jack Bender, who directs several of these episodes, has talked about building this deliberately as the opposite of Lost's flash sideways sequences, which offered characters a hopeful glimpse of a life that could have been. Henry gets no such comfort. Jeff Pinkner put the mechanism more plainly. These visions exist to make the person experiencing them relive the roads they didn't take. The entity isn't only extracting information out of Henry, it's using his own regret as the delivery method, aiming the manipulation at the exact wound that would make him most willing to believe it. Griffin's team has been open about the fact that this entity said as much back in episode 1, that watching residents turn on each other and tear themselves apart is the part it enjoys most. Henry's storyline is that stated preference, built out in full. Boyd is the case that ties the whole pattern together, mostly because his body has been lying to him for 4 years and the show has never let him have a clean answer about why. He came into the very first season convinced he had Parkinson's, self-diagnosed, telling no one. Season 2 revealed that wasn't it at all. What was actually moving under his skin were parasites tied to the tower, connected to a man named Martin, and stopping them meant smashing a music box that was, at the same moment, killing several other people through hallucinations of its own. Season 3 brought the tremors back regardless, plus a new symptom, his leg locking mid-stride, and he still didn't tell his own son what he suspected was happening to him. Season 4 keeps that uncertainty running instead of resolving it. Boyd is still seeing his dead wife Abby in flashes. He can't always separate from what's actually in front of him. And the show has never confirmed whether that's grief, something supernatural, or both working on him at once. He is the character who has been in this town the longest. He is the closest thing the show has to a steady hand. And after 4 years of paying attention to every rule this place has, he still doesn't get to know what's actually wrong with his own body. If Season 4 is a season about what knowledge costs, Boyd is proof that this show doesn't always hand you an answer once the price gets paid. Sometimes there's no answer waiting on the other side of it at all, and the not knowing is the thing he's left carrying instead. Then there's the pair of deaths that closed out the finale, worth setting side by side because they run this same argument in opposite directions. Marielle, the town's nurse since the very first season, dies because an earthquake knocks a talisman loose at exactly the wrong moment, letting Smiley through a door that should have held. That cost arrives with no negotiation attached to it, a piece of protection failing on nothing but bad timing. Elgin dies the other way. He's offered the same kind of deal this entity has been offering people all season, and he turns it down. He prays instead, and it kills him specifically for the refusal. Not for anything he did, but for the one thing he wouldn't do. Put those two deaths together and you get both prices. This show is willing to charge. Bad luck takes what it wants without asking permission first. Defiance gets punished on purpose, deliberately, as a lesson aimed at whoever's left standing to watch it happen. Which is what makes the very last thing that happens in the finale land as deliberately as it does. Sophia, still carrying the man in yellow underneath her, goes through town with Clara's help and pulls every talisman out of every home that has one, then throws all of it into the faraway tree. Not at the start of the season, when it would have done the most damage before anyone understood what was coming for them. At the very end, right after the bones have already been pulled out of that chamber. This entity has had 4 full seasons to leave this town defenseless, and it waited until this exact moment on purpose. Strip every piece of protection away right after the town has finally learned something worth knowing, and you're left with a specific message rather than a random one. Understanding what's happening here was never going to be the thing that saves anybody in this town. It's the thing you pay for right before the price actually gets collected. Griffin and Pinkner have both used the word endgame to describe where Season 5 is headed, and after watching what Season 4 actually charged its characters to get here, that word carries more weight than it would from most shows. Fatima's body, Henry's mind, 4 years of Boyd never getting an answer, Marielle's bad luck, and Elgin's refusal. All of it adds up to a town that finally understands more than it ever has, standing in the dark with every single one of its defenses gone. Season 5 doesn't open on a cliffhanger. It opens on an invoice.